we are going to do slab construction today. So if you are interested in this method, you will need to talk to me because I will cut you a much different type of clay piece. Nice job. Do you want to just listen to my demo and then we'll, okay. So you are going to ask me to help you cut a piece of clay. And this clay is going to be a lot larger than the smaller sort of chunks I originally cut because you are going to want to just use a rolling pin to flatten it out some. And you're going to need more of it because you're going to cut the pieces that you need out of it. So when I do this, I do it on top of the mat as well, and then I'm going to use a rolling pin. I have two kinds. You can choose whichever one you would like. This one gives you a little bit more room because they're longer. It's good if you've ever rolled dough out for your mom or dad, if you like to make cookies or desserts and things. It's good to turn it in different directions so that you don't have it getting wider in one spot and not in the other. So I'm gonna roll it, I'm gonna flip it. If you also notice, I don't have many grooves, like I don't want ridges in it, I want it to be kind of as smooth as possible. So I think it's big enough now. So I'm going to create just a box to show you two things, how to put it together and how to make sure you have a hole in it somewhere so that you don't trap air inside of something, because that's what leads to damage in the kiln when I start to fire. So I have a ruler, which is a straight edge, because when you're attaching these, you want to make sure you have a straight edge because they have to kind of go together. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut my excess clay there. I'm going to decide how wide I want this to be. And you can use your knife. You can measure like you would in math class. I'm going to make it 3. So I'm going to just line it up on the edge here. Put my ruler here. This should give me enough pieces. In order to make a cube or a box, how many pieces do you think I need? How many sides does it have?
4.
Yes, thank you. Whoever said 6 is correct. I have a bottom and a top. We are now making a 3-dimensional object. I should have maybe called it a cube. Do you know if there's a friend coming today? Do you know? Okay. I thought. Okay, so I'm gonna then measure how much I need of this. I'm gonna draw. I'll do it this way first. Kind of want to make sure that this all starts from the same spot so it's nice and smooth. We're gonna make it 3 by 3. So I'm gonna put a mark there. I'm gonna lay it down here. I don't know that I'm gonna get enough out of here, but 3. So being able to use a ruler is a good thing. You don't have to be as precise if you want it to be more of an organic shape or an organic form. I've got enough to start with though. So I'm then going to pull up my pieces. And do you see how they're all sort of nice evenly flat everywhere? I'm going to practice putting it together. So I'm going to just set them up. If you know that these are the pieces that are going to be my sides, I want to make sure that they all kind of fit together so that I don't have a problem. And if you notice, I'll hold this up. You notice how I put it together? So there's 2 sides and then 2 on the inside. So it's not like it's going to be wonky and I have to cut another piece or I have to bend it to make it work. Okay? So who can tell me what method I'm going to do to attach these pieces? What is that known as? Ben?
Slip and score.
Slip and score. So I am going to start with use a toothbrush. And I'm going to attach it here and here. So then the edges here need to be slipped and scored. So I'm going to set that right like so. Take another one, do this edge, and set that like so as well. Now, before I add that next piece, what I want you to take note of is that I'm going to have to get some extra clay. This is sort of how the gentleman did it in the video we saw, who made those really big pots. He takes a smaller amount of clay and he rolls it into a coil. Okay? What's awesome about clay is that it wants to be friends with each other all the time, I like to say. So I can set it right in this crack here. So I'll show that, I'll pick it up here in a second, but it's a little wet. So I'm sticking it in the crack here. I'm doing that while I have room for my hands to fit in there. If I don't have room for my hands, it's going to be very tricky, and that's when I'm going to start to damage sort of the shape of my object, whatever it is that I'm creating. I want to do my best to blend it so I don't see any seams between where I've done this. Okay, so that goes in the middle. I'm going to do it on the other side as well. So I'm going to take my clay, make a this is where your coil can be all wonky. Remember how I said a good coil? Sometimes we make funky ones. This is where a coil like that is all right, because we're gonna blend it in. Okay, so I've got that pretty good. I wanna be careful with it because this clay is pretty soft. I'm not gonna worry about the edges on the outside just yet. I wanna get that other piece attached. And this one's gonna be a little bit trickier because I am gonna have to stick my hands inside. So I wanna do that as the least amount possible. This one is going on the outside, so I'm gonna do my edges here and here, okay? Then I'm going to flip this over on it so that it kind of stands up like that. Can you all see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, I'm gonna kind of push that together because that clay will start to join itself together. I'm gonna do my coil, and again, while I can have it bracing on something, I'm gonna start to add my coil in there, and I'm gonna blend that together so that it strengthens that seam, okay? I'll put one here as well. I'm gonna place it in there. For the sake of time, you're gonna assume that I do everything I'm supposed to. Now, once I've done that, I can do a couple things. I have these great tools I showed you before. And I can stick this right on here so that if I'm sitting and working, I can now go back and I can blend these seams so that they join together really nice. I also have those rubber kidneys or those wooden tools that this type of tool would be able to help me blend it so that it's nice and perfectly square if that's the look you're going for. Okay? So I want to check all those. Now, let's see how close I am. We'll pretend you're gonna have to ask Mrs. Yaeger to get another piece of clay to roll out another slab. But I will do it as you need it. Does that make sense? That you might not have time to finish all this, so then you're gonna have to store it somewhere. So then the next class, I will roll that new one out. Say I have enough, you rolled another one, we're gonna use this as my example. I am going to slip and score all 4 edges of this with my toothbrush, as well as the tops of all of those, so that I know that I'm gonna have a nice, clean, I'm gonna get as close as I can to this for you just for the example. If it looks like this, is this properly done? No. This would be a problem, right? Okay, so I would need to pull it off and restart it. We're going to assume for the demo, for time-wise, that this is all good to go. I'm going to flip it over. What am I gonna do on the inside of the 4 bottom corners, the edges? What am I gonna do that I showed you on the other original edges?
Put in the coils.
Put in the small coils again. So I'm gonna roll them. I'm gonna set them inside here as carefully as I can, and I'm gonna blend them and kind of see the coil in there. And then I'm gonna blend that to the top of that slab as well as to the bottom. A tool like this could help because this edge is really nice. I can easily get in there without sort of having my hand in the way because it's a little bit farther out of there. So I would do that to all 4 sides, okay? Now, let's pretend again that I want to make this a solid. I think I had a student who wanted to make a Rubik's Cube of some kind. So this is a great way to do it. However, if my slab covers this completely, let's just roll this flatter. What will happen if I do not create an opening for the air to escape?
It'll blow up.
It will blow up. So maybe you do this a little bit wider. You can always lay this down on top of your clay and you can trim around it to get the perfect size. Does that kind of make sense? So there I've got that piece. So I've done that. Now, yes, this piece you're gonna take off. You're gonna slip and score it. You can watch a video if you want, Nicholas, okay? Okay. So I'm gonna slip and score this as well. Where's my toothbrush? I'm gonna set this on here. And this part on the outside, I'm gonna really wanna make sure I take my time to blend. I'm gonna do my best and hope that this is gonna be enough for it. Does that make sense? Hopefully she'll stay if you do a good job. And this clay is nice and soft, so it should be no problem at all. So I'm gonna blend that together. Now, how could I go about putting a punctured area in here so that I can have a hole in it or something like that?
The side that you're gonna have is like the bottom. You can like poke a hole in this.
Exactly. And I have a couple tools. I would start with this type of tool, and I would just poke. It doesn't have to be a big hole, like that. This would be a place, if this is the bottom, I'm gonna also write my name on the bottom so that I know it belongs to me. Now, if this feels like it's a little wonky and it's not holding its shape, something else that you can do, and I kind of just started to do this, I can take some paper towel and you can stick the paper towel inside of this. And that, as it dries, my clay will not sink or sort of like gravity won't make it slush down kind of or slop down. I was kind of trying to think of a word that would picture in your head as that happens, like slump maybe is the right word. This is okay to keep in it when it goes into the kiln. Because remember, if I'm sealing this up, can I get that paper out ever once it's all hardened? No, and I'm not gonna want to. What happens to the paper when it gets really hot in my kiln? It's gonna burn, right, Max? And then it's gonna turn to ash. So when it comes out of the kiln, we just take this and tip it over the garbage can and you'll have ashes that come out from the paper. So that is not a problem at all. If you feel that in order to keep the shape of your object, you are welcome to do that. Now, if you are storing this because you've run out of time and you have all these patterns you're gonna carve into this, let's say, you are going to need to ask me for a bag. We're going to put your name on it. You're going to take a piece of paper towel. You're going to just get it damp. I recommend not wrapping it, especially because sometimes it gets too soggy, and this clay is pretty good, so it's just going to make it more soggy. So what I like to do is I like to just place this piece in here. I put my clay in there, I put the piece of paper towel next to it, I make sure it's nice and wet, and then I seal this up, and I get a Sharpie and I write my name on here. That way the moisture stays inside the bag without wrecking the actual clay. Did you kind of see why I'm doing it that way? If you wrap it in the paper towel, when you come back sometimes the next class time, because we have every other, you might find your piece all completely like a puddle of clay. It doesn't hold its shape typically. It gets too soggy. So by just having that in there, it keeps moisture within the space and it keeps the clay safe. Okay? These get stored. Jacob is gonna walk around to the other side. See the brown trays on the two bottom shelves over there? He's gonna point to them. There's one there and there's one below it. That is where you set your pieces that are in progress. Your piece is completely done. It goes in here, and I'll show you where I'm gonna put that because you're gonna watch me through the window. Your name's gonna be on it. Everything's gonna be ready to go. And you're going to sit it. Those of you in the window, back up a little so people can see around you. It goes right here on this shelf. Okay, so did everybody see that? Yeah. There'll be room in there to get in there, okay? Any questions about this? Okay, so you have wow stuff to do. Again, these require planning steps as well.